Boom! This episode of Talks with KG is sponsored by Kanai Cleaning Services. Quality service at all times. Located out of New York, serving all 5 boroughs. They have been in business for over 15 years. Services include cleaning of schools, cleaning of hospitals, cleaning of houses. It don't really matter. Just link up with Kanai Cleaning Services. Their number is 917-200-4362 or email kanaienterprise.com. Also, Jave Auto AC, located number 182 Eastern Main Road, El Dorado, for all your AC needs. Right now the sun hot, so Jave AC is definitely a spot. Boom! Welcome to another episode of Talks with KG, where we keep it real and nothing else but real. And tonight we have another wonderful episode. They say, well, the talk on the streets is Akash Samaroo. No, sorry, KG is the hood version of Akash Samaroo. And I take that with so much. I pat my shoulder all kind of thing when they tell me that, because I have high respect, I somebody that now coming in the game, a year and something I probably doing this. And just like the music, I was looking up to artists when I was in that space. Now I find myself looking up to journalists and that kind of vibes. And I mean, Akash Samaroo is definitely, I would say, the leading journalist right now in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, from me. Now, we like to talk about the youths and what the youths and them to see. And Akash do anything. Akash, make a name for himself to a point where I, as somebody that not really familiar with that space, I familiar with you, bad bro. So it's a pleasure to have you on the platform here, and we have a lot to talk about. You see, I bring my brother Naldo,
No, I really appreciate the opportunity. I following the your platform a little while now. I think since the Umi one, since the Umi Makano. And we are very proud of where we reach. And because one thing I always tell people on this journey is one thing I regretted in my 20s is that you're always looking for the next accomplishment and you never stop to take a moment to appreciate what you've accomplished so far.
Right.
So along this journey, make sure and take a little time for yourself, pat yourself on the back, and then go again.
Yeah, man, for sure. You're saying you're early 20s, so that means you've been doing this, this journalism
Next
thing
week
for
will
quite
be
some
14
time.
years. Yeah, June 1st will make it 14 years.
Nice. So for the people that, probably do not know who's Akash Samaroo, I like to take them to the very beginning. Who is Akash Samaroo?
I mean, contrary to what people think I'm going to see on TV, I'm a very shy, quiet person. I grew up with quiet family. My mother and father, sort of rabble rousers and thing. They're very calm and I say quiet people. But I think early on, probably from primary school days and things, now and then I would find a little burst of courage and I would stand up for something and going through. So it wasn't every day. But ever so often I would see injustice in a certain place and I would find myself saying certain things and the words coming out my mouth and in my head I saying, Akash, what you doing? So that was me really. I really like football. Football is really one of my passions. And pretty
What school you
average.
went?
I went to Hillview.
Right.
Yeah, I went to Hillview for 7 years. And it was there I really started to step out a little more in terms of being a little more outspoken. But again, it was nothing like the levels that I do now. I rather just have a very easy day, go home and play FIFA and just relax myself. No problems, no trouble. And now I find myself
Sound like myself,
doing this with my anxiety always at 100 now.
Definitely.
Yeah. But I didn't come from any background to say that this was always going to be the passion and the journey, and this was always going to be my dream.
And when you say the passion and the journey, I mean
Journalism. So I didn't grow up thinking I'm going to be a journalist as a child and thing. I think the first thing I wanted to be was the Red Power Ranger. And then from that, I'd say, yeah, I never anticipated it would be like this. But I always knew I wanted to do something to help people, to make a difference, and to have a purpose. And the journalism was supposed to be a stepping stone to something else. And then the industry kind of hooked me in the sense where I started to see all the good things you could do in the job. You could fix a road, you could bring water in a pipe, you could feed people, you could house people, and you could expose, you could hold people to account. And when I saw the power it had, I said, this could be for me, for now.
But you say it was a stepping stone.
Yeah.
But what make you even decide
Media,
journalism on a whole?
I needed a job. Like, I always wish I had a better story to tell people
You
when they
needed a
ask.
job?
I going through the papers, I was 20 years old.
Right.
I had enough. I was going UWI at the time, doing literature and linguistics. It wasn't really for me. At 20, I wanted to work. I'd never liked school, per se, as in the structure of school. I liked a little freedom. I wanted to work. I'm flipping through the papers. I saw 103 FM needed a news reporter. I said, but there's a nice opportunity to be an announcer one day. It wasn't even a case of I want to be a reporter.
So
it was like
you
I
were
could
just
start
saying
here.
that just so?
I could start here,
Right.
move my way up.
So
yeah, and I said, all right, there's a nice into the industry. And I applied for it. I got it. And then, honestly, it was nothing like I was naturally gifted. It wasn't anything like I was a prodigy or anything like that. It was a case of hard work. So you working 5 days a week, I work in 7. You ain't call me out to work the public holiday, I showing up for free to get the experience, to get my name out there, and to try. Cause I always tell myself, whatever I do is either you do it to the best, or you be the best in it,
So-
or do better.
So you was looking at people because I'm trying to figure out what even catch your interest. Where you say, well,
I always
let me
like
dive in.
something in the creative field.
Yeah.
So I always knew I used to really watch television and things like that, and I always used to feel like I would do well on TV, and I always knew I would do something in a creative industry, but it was never supposed to specifically be not for once between from when I was born to when I was 21 years old. When I start, I say I'm going to be a journalist. Journalism is my calling. It was never my calling. I think helping people was my calling, and journalism was the vehicle. And then it just 14 years later, still here. And it's been fantastic. It's been horrifying at times. It's been very low paying into the sense of it hasn't made me a lot of money per se, but it has given my parents and my family and my wife and then a reason to feel proud, and you can't really put a value on that. So I'll always say I regret it one bit.
You would say your success came like in the last year or two,
Nah.
or you've always looked at yourself as a
well,
success
it depends on like where you think success is.
because now you're famous.
And that was never the goal, eh? The goal is social media and think towards that. But that was never, the goal was never to say, all right, I want to be talked about as well. It was just, I want to do a good job. Because I just set certain standards for myself that I'm very hard on myself, very critical. Even in certain press conferences where people say, wait, Akash, mash them up. I going home disappointed because I know I could have done things a little better in hindsight. But yeah, I would say honestly, it really started blowing up since COVID. Since those COVID press conferences where they started to live stream the press conferences, because back in the day, the press conference used to be between the reporters, the people who host the press conference, and then later in the news or in the newspaper the next day, you will find out what happened. Now, everybody tuning in like a Champions League finals, Everybody, they're waiting to meme, they're waiting to clip. There's a lot of attention now, and I think when they started it with COVID, because it was information that people needed now, I think that is where I started to become a little more of a household name. But prior to that, between 2011 and 2020, I was steadily building my name And my brand honestly was not to be famous, but it was to be no nonsense.
So your brand was always those type of
Yeah, because
questions.
I always found that while you want to be respectful, there was this post-colonial kind of reverence to politicians and decision makers that I will have respect for you, of course.
Right.
I will call you by your title, Doctor this, Madam this. But at the same time, I'm not here to just be an echo chamber for you.
Right.
I'm not here to just repeat what you're saying.
Right.
There's a population out there that has questions, and rightfully so. And those are the people you are accountable to and you work for.
Right.
And I will bring those questions to you. So when people say real brave, it have nothing to do with bravery. That is not bravery. That is doing our job. That is simply just
Well,
doing your
I guess
work
people
and
will
going
say
home.
bravery because we live in a time where people could take offense and trouble could come your way.
And
now.
they could take offense to it, but they need to understand it coming from a place of passion.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't have no offense when it comes to passion. You shouldn't take passion personally.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
understand? If as an elected official per se you cannot stand up to scrutiny and the questions from the people who put you there, then you need to rethink what you doing there.
Right.
That's nothing on me.
Right. If you know you have no cocoa in the sun, you shouldn't feel any way. I was certain question.
Yeah. It's never a case of I sit down in a room before the press conference starts and I'm going to say, I'm going to mash up this one today. Or I'm going to make sure and embarrass this one today. Is no, I have a list of questions here and I'm going to ask them firmly and fairly. And you have to account to this because that is your job.
Yeah. I mean, Akash is the man, you know. Akash is the man I know get inspiration from, you know. I say, well, right, I not alone.
When I saw
You know?
the post where they called it the Hood Akash Samaroo, I actually
Yeah.
felt really nice about it because that was during the backlash I got from the post-cabinet news briefing
Right.
on May 8th. The first one for the new government.
Right.
And that was like the few positive things I saw on social media and I was like, I needed this.
Right.
This make me feel a little
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Now, the reason I bring Naldo is because, remember, we were talking about when I was interviewing the politicians and thing, and Naldo say, people ask him why KG didn't bring him on the show now. Because I guess Naldo a little more knowledgeable, in that political realm and that kind of vibes now, you know.
Yeah.
So I said, no, I'll bring Naldo, because I know Naldo probably has some questions too, and we can have a good little conversation now. But before I pass it on to Naldo, because I know Naldo coming, right? I wanted to ask you. I remember when you was doing the conference with Dr. Rowley,
Right.
and you came with the hard-hitting questions, and people were like, "Yeah, Akash, thanks, facts, and that, it come like you push the man up against the wall, and we on social media probably don't really see that type of engagement now. It probably does be happening in your world,
Yeah.
but I probably never saw like a viral moment like that where a reporter literally come like, you, bro, you do the job, that kind of way. And everybody was proud of you. And then I was saying, let me see if Akash will do that with this new government too. You understand? And you did it.
Yeah.
Right? And the backlash was different. It was the opposite.
It was
Right?
I thought up to that point,
Yeah.
I thought I had seen it all. I thought in
Maybe
terms
you had
of
seen it
social
all.
media backlash, I was like, because I got some for COVID too, and
It
I
was
thought,
making memes and things.
right, and I thought, all right, that will not catch me unawares again. Like you build up a shield and a skin for it now, and an armor for it. But that one was
So it bother you?
that one was different.
Serious.
It bothered me. Some of them bothered me because sometimes people gonna assume that you're not seeing that, and sometimes you run the risk of people forgetting that you're a person, you're a real human being. You have your parents, you have a wife, your grandparents who
Right.
are also seeing it.
Right.
And I think what bothered me more was how much it bothered them. So watching how much it bothered them,
In what way?
and I mean, my mom and thing when she sees certain.
Oh, bother your family.
Yeah, bother my family and thing. Like I
Right.
remember very soon after was Mother's Day and thing. And even with my family, you could tell they're trying to smile, but it have us because it was right after the weekend right after was Mother's Day. And you could tell they're carrying a little hurt in them.
Right.
And I remember that bothering me because I could shake it off a little better because I got accustomed a little bit. But yeah, it had taken a little toll on my family and my wife and thing.
But what exactly was bothering you? Was it like the backlash, or was it like a vibes where you felt like you did something
I
wrong,
anticipated the backlash, KG, because just like what you said earlier, I used to sit in those press conferences when the PNM administration was in charge. And I know that I used to see some things saying Akash is a UNC reporter, Akash is an opposition reporter. And I know a large part of that has had to do with my ethnicity and people assuming that the journalist of Indian descent
Right.
is supporting the so-called perceived Indian party.
Right.
And I knew the day was coming where I was going to put arrest to that talk. So I anticipated, and I remember when the UNC won, I sit down and I tell myself the next day, I said, Akash, you be keeping the same energy, we keeping the same philosophy, you're staying true to yourself, people are going to get upset. Anticipate a sense of betrayal. The people go and feel like you betray them, whoever, whatnot, but you had to be strong and you go and stand up to it. And I remember in that first post-cabinet briefing, I sitting there and I watching the question in front of me that I have, and I had some not soft questions, but I had some I would perceive as easier ones to build my way up. But because it was running so late and I got the vibe that everybody was only going to be allowed a couple, I said, all right, we're going to have to go straight to it, no build up. And I anticipated that people would not have been happy because I never got carried away when I saw the Akash's, this is journalism, that is journalism. I knew for some of them, it wasn't that it was the journalism they were supporting, it was the fact that it was exposing maybe a party they didn't support.
Right, correct.
So I knew it was from a sense of that. So I never got carried away. You would never see me share the memes where they put me in Superman costumes. I never let that go to my head because I knew the day would come where it was going to be the other way. But what I didn't anticipate was the hate that came with it. I understood that some people may have been disappointed and disgruntled, but some people said some very, very hurtful things in terms of people talk about my family, my wife, people talk about my face, my appearance, and all kind of derogatory terms. And I thought that was a bit too much. I was thinking you can disagree, you could be upset with the questions, but it didn't have to reach that level. And the Friday where there was the opening of Parliament and there was a large group of UNC supporters there, I knew that they would have been at their reckoning in the sense that it's the first time I go and face them in person since that. And there were old people, people like my grandmother's age, who took pride and owned that they were some of the people who came and attacked me on social media, and that kind of shocked me because they felt comfortable enough to come up to me and boast about saying bad things about me online. And I'm thinking, 2 months ago, it was Akash need a national award, right?
Right, correct.
And I bring the same energy now, and I knew it was going to be, I know they were going to be upset. I just didn't know they were going to be that upset to the point where it was almost as if all the work I had done before meant nothing now. Right? So that is what really hurt me about it. And to this day, in public, I would feel it a little bit. So the warmth from a certain group of people not there right now. But I would say that I don't regret it because I started seeing the comments that I really wanted to see, which was, I always thought Akash was a UNC man, but now I realize
I was one of them.
But now I realize the man is a journalist,
correct,
full stop.
correct.
And I get in support in public and things from people who may I just probably hail them out, but have, you know, walking in is a different type of support now. And I was, honestly, I would do it again and again and again because I really needed people to understand that this was never about any agenda against a particular party. This was my job, and whoever is the decision maker of the country, I doing the job the same way, whether you like it or not.
Yep. Definitely.
But when I see people like Hema, so anti-Hema, so and so, and Bauji this, and basmati that, and they message me on Facebook, and they cursing at me. I was like, Auntie, what you doing here? What's this? Even when outside Parliament, this old lady supported by people holding she up, call me over and say, come son, you watch yourself, eh? I was like, Auntie, why? Why? What's all this?
But you know, Akash, them things don't bother me at all. Like, a comment could never bother me, boy. Them could say the worst thing ever. I don't know why. It just can't bother me because I know that it just...
The evolution of the AI memes, though, is what I didn't anticipate too. Because I cut some of the memes, the written ones. But then they started doing the fakes and the AI, and I was like, I forget this exists. Oh Lord. And one thing is something I don't play with is my name and my image and thing, and people were just having fun with it.
If I had to be with you, bro, I think that yes, you get backlash, you know, but you must get backlash sometime in your career. Must, right? But I think that it also really just brand you even more as a journalist, because you were a conversation in Trinidad. You were like the main topic as a journalist, bro. Now I watch it. You know, like, journalists don't trend too much. You know, the artists might trend or something might trend, politicians might trend, you know. But you was trending as a journalist. So even though people were disagreeing with you, I would not study it if I was you now. I would have more watch it like, of course I am the talk of the town.
And then I think people don't understand that it's going to sometimes you're going to disagree with certain questions because it may not resonate with you. So when I asked the Prime Minister the second question, which people don't tend to talk about, which was, when it is you campaign on a promise that everyone will win, right? What about when are we going to start with the negotiations? You promise public servants 10%, right? When that going to start, right? And people tell them that too early. And I'm thinking, well, too early for who? Because I have public servants messaging me saying, Akash, boy, we hold off on the 5. We waiting for we are back. We need back pay. It has some people want to send the children to school. It has some people want to fix up their homes. The question is not too early for them. And I feel people just need to respect that. You see this culture of attacking journalists and attacking reporters for doing their work while glorifying these politicians. I think it needs to stop. Right? I don't understand that. It's just it's our job we're doing. You could agree, you could disagree, but to come after somebody and cuss them out on Facebook as big people, I find that.
And as you say, and it's like you forget everything I did. You know?
Yeah, I thought I had credit in the bank. I said myself, I can share some credit in the bank. You go absorb this, eh? None. It was as if I started journalism that day for the first day. But as I say, and I play it back in my mind sometimes, and I tell myself, every time, if life put me there, every moment I'll ask that question, because
I'm not going to ask that because, but if it bother you so much and it bother your family, will that slow you down now? You might not ask a question like that again.
I think I think while it might bother my family initially, I think it would bother them more if I change who I am and what it is I stand for and what I do. Because they always taught me that the right thing is always going to be sometimes the hard thing to do. And I always, when I go to schools and I tell children about courage and I tell them only be brave, I say being brave and being courageous is not being the biggest and baddest, is not being the strongest physically, is the ability to do the right thing when the right thing is the hardest thing to do. Definitely. And a lot of times in this country, sometimes doing the right thing is the hardest thing. If you have a traffic light that you know you cannot merge until that light green, and everybody blowing behind you because it's common practice to just break that light and that nothing light, and you're feeling that pressure behind it, it's be like that sometimes. But you have to do the right thing. And if everybody start do the right thing, we're going to have a much nicer place to live in.
You're lying, bro. You're lying, bro. So I know Naldo has some questions on the ends there. You know, Naldo, they're so long, they're quiet. You know. We're going to have a brother. Hey, let me take our rude boy chairs now. We're going to have it here. You know, make sure the label is showing. You know. That is it.
How come you
need time? Yeah, that is it. Yeah, so we're going to have it here.
I grab a mic from somewhere.
Yeah, take the mic now, take the mic.
You can borrow mic?
Yeah, I'll borrow Akash mic. Good boy, is that one here, boy? Yeah, so taking in a lot of what you're saying here, and you know, it's some interesting things I want to get into. I want to dive into.
Before you start now, you know, this real interesting.
Talk to me.
Like, You in a press conference right now.
Yeah.
You know, come like, you in a conference
Look
right
how
now.
it flip. You understand?
It's feel a little weird sometimes, but honestly, it's be kind of therapeutic
Right.
to get
True,
certain
true.
things
Of course.
off your chest, and we don't really get the opportunity sometimes
To do that, yeah, I
to
understand.
get certain,
Yeah.
certain perspectives there.
Yeah, for sure.
No, so I want to jump back into you're saying that during the COVID time is where you know people started to hear about you a lot more. But then at that point in time, you went missing from the press conferences, and everybody was saying you get banned.
Yeah.
Tell us what went on in that situation.
It was never a case where I got banned. That has never happened. Even people would stop me in public during the PNM administration and say, "Boy, Prime Minister don't like you, boy," and I would say that's not true. I believe he deeply respects what I do because in his final interviews, farewell interview, it's the office of the Prime Minister call and say the Prime Minister wants the Prime Minister wants you to be one of the people, and I had a lot of respect for that. It was never a case of that. It's honestly sometimes down to something as simple as the shift you're working on. They call the press conference at a time where you ain't really reach for the day yet. You might be working the late shift. The press conference called 10 in the morning.
Right.
And then sometimes I felt as if the press conferences had morphed into a entertainment show where people looking to see who going and fall out with who, which journalists going and get rough up, thing like that. And I felt like I was like, people dying. Like there's something that's killing people globally, right? So we need to start to get a little more focused on the material. So for me personally too, I didn't rush to do everyone. Whichever one I was assigned to, I would do. But you also had a respect for your colleagues too now, boy. So you can't say that, right, KG, I see you doing the COVID press conference, I go do it, right? That disrespectful to you as a journalist. You are your time too. So when I see somebody else assigned to it too, it was never a case of let me get Akash away from the press conferences. And that came up as a question in Parliament. I remember the opposition brought that as a question, an urgent question, to ask if I had been banned. But that was never the case. The only thing that was ever a situation is when I told, I think the comms minister at that time was Donna Cox. And I went outside the virtual press conference and I was muting your mic. And I just said, don't mute my mic until I finish my question now, because Don is not the best. It's not the best forum to ask certain questions, because when they mute you, you can't follow up. You can't stop them and say, hey, that's not what I asked. I asked this. But it was never a case where I got banned. And during COVID, had so much other work to do other than the press conferences. I remember at that time, I did a lot of stories to human interest to help people who was going through like financial problems and things. And I felt like that was my way of also helping during that time, because that time too, as humanity, we needed to come together and try to help too. So I started off in the press conferences, but eventually though the press conferences started to get a little mundane. It started to get repetitive, and I remember telling my boss, I said, I'm going to meet the people out there, and I'm going to start to do a different type of journalism too. So it was, that was never the case. I've never been in a situation where they say we don't want Akash. That's never ever been, to the credit of every administration. Nobody ever tried to ban. I've never heard about a journalist getting banned or a mainstream journalist getting banned.
All right, interesting. No,
Man, say interesting.
no. I mean, as I say, interesting, because at the end of the day, okay, the Ministry of Communications or the Prime Minister's office might not have banned people, but I'm pretty sure in certain newsrooms, not mightn't be all in newsroom, but I'm sure in certain newsrooms, you just get trouble, so you not going on that. I'm pretty sure that is happening in some newsrooms.
In my newsroom, it was always a case of keep pushing, keep asking your questions, and keep being and keep that intensity. I've never been told to ease up.
Okay.
I've never had a boss that said go easy on them today, or we're looking for ad revenue, we're looking for the government to advertise with we ease we up a bit. It was never the case. It was always good job. Tomorrow we're going for them again, right?
So you're saying that says that there's a possibility that might have happened in other places. What do you think?
I have no clue. I have none at all. I have like no clue at all.
Right?
I work in CNC since 2013. Guardian Media since 2013 to now. So I never really had too much experience as an adult journalist in anywhere else to know what the culture might be. But we've never had a culture muzzling anybody or saying
No, not all here, but you ever hear about it? You ever hear about it?
Is that a culture?
No, I have colleagues and things in
It have a journalist mafia?
other media. I don't think so. But if I wanted to invite me. But yeah, no, I have colleagues and thing in other mainstream media houses and thing, and nobody ever pulled me square and say, boy, you know, right now they pressure we to ease them up and thing. Nah.
It's not about that.
Nah, yeah, to the credit of the media industry.
Because journalism is not about that either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a media house would want their journalists to be the best they could be. So I would maybe think that maybe state media, the TTTs and TNMG back in the day, I would want to believe they may have a particular line that they will cut across because of the nature of the of how they function. But in terms of the independent media houses and thing, nah, I never really hear anything. Like
Like a reporter.
Well, hey, listen to me. I remember I've been in this thing in a while. But no, because as I say, what I say that is interesting, right? Because I remember when PP came into power back in 2010, right? I remember being in a meeting, in a general meeting in the media house I was working in, and a lot of the news reporters, some of them reached by earlier, some in TV6, because they walk out of that meeting because they had a meeting, we had a general meeting, and a lot of the news reporters came together. Mark Besant had left already. I think he had resigned already, but he come out and he was in the meeting too. Right? Mark, you remember that? Anyhow, and a lot of the reporters were talking about they feel like they were being muzzled. They feel like they weren't able to tell the real story. And they were talking to the CEO and the then chairman, I think he was. And yeah, they didn't get the satisfaction that they wanted in terms of things being totally independent. And yeah, man, walk out and resignation like that.
Say what I want to ask, right? You know, like you used to always hear that, you would hear things like rumors, statements like, I'll just make an example. Rowley and them own the media, the PNM own this TV station or wherever it is, right? I ain't really too hip on them things. But it's almost like they try to make it look like, let's just say Rowley, Dr. Rowley, he have ties in certain TV stations. So let's just say a story come out on Dr. Rowley, they would never publish it because of their relationship with that. Is that true? Is that like a real thing?
I could only speak from my experience and I've never had a certain story that they say, nah, hold that.
Right.
In fact, you have an expose on the Prime Minister, you better run it. You know, that's front page news.
Right.
That's something that would earn you the adoration of your bosses and your company and things like that. But people, I mean, I always hear that there's a PNM station, there's a UNC station, and it just really fluctuates with whoever the news is of the day. You know, people just want to say...
I want to cut you, bro, but like, for instance, too, because I go in real deep with it, right, as in sense of where journalism is concerned, right? We grew up in the inner cities hearing things like murders, like people might die, and the government would hide that. So like we say 600 murders for the year, it would be really 1,500, let's say. But the newspaper would not publish these things because the government hiding the real crime rate. If you know where I'm going, that kind of
just add to that question, right? I think if you look back last year, Akash, there were two different set of figures in terms of the murders. I don't know if you realize that. We had a low, like 604 or 605 or something like that, and then we had a 620 something. You understand? Like, what do you think caused that?
Is that a real thing?
That is down to categorization of murders. Because sometimes what we may call a murder, the police might find a way to not put that maybe on the murder column, but will call it something else. It might be a manslaughter. Something else they would find a way maybe to recategorize that murder. But the hiding of violence in our society, or not obviously
As a
hiding, but
journalist.
maybe not putting it on the front page,
Right.
is more, I think, of those islands that are very tourist dependent.
Right.
So you might get that up the archipelago, but in Trinidad and Tobago, we definitely
Crime is
don't
crime.
have that. Crime is crime.
Crime is crime. Everybody know it's a crime.
Because we don't believe in we're hiding it for.
Yeah.
We have to show the reality of what's happening. So I think even at time I was listening to the former tourism minister was talking in Parliament, and he was saying, we as a government don't ever try to muzzle media when it comes to, certain acts of violence and thing. You always have free reign to post where you want and things like that. And I remember thinking, exactly, that is democracy, right? It's not like we like it, eh? The days that go by that it have no sort of big murders, I think it's good days
Of
for us,
course.
because we get to focus on other things. Crime could take up so much of your time, and at the end of the day you go, man, you say, boy, who are you? I didn't really help nobody today. I just had a very...
So as a journalist,
handy.
basically, you have to focus on crime.
But I mean, you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it at all. But what I'm saying is sometimes crime could take up a certain space that you could have done something else with. You could have helped
And
somebody
that's a damn
else with.
shame. You know, that kind
In
of
terms
way?
of resources
That's a
too,
damn
we
shame.
always hear about the price how much crime costs the country. Look how much millions we spend on national security every year
That
in
is a
terms
damn
of the
shame,
budget.
bro.
Sorry, not saying millions, billions.
Yeah.
And we always think about what we could have done better with our money. It's the same way sometimes you'll be like, I could have really, if it wasn't for this quadruple murder here, I could have helped our family today get something to eat, or I could have do something else. So yeah, but it's never a case. I'm just going back to your question where we hide. In fact, some newspapers have a murder count, a homicide count. Every day they will update the numbers.
Right.
Police will have their statistics. We will have ours. As is, sometimes it may not sync up, but it could be down to how they categorize certain killings as well. For example, if a police officer in the line of duty shoots someone, alleged criminal, that's not a murder. They won't put that down as a murder. It's not police involved shooting, not police involved shooting. So yeah, it really comes down to the categorization.
All right. So, but do you think that there's any particular effort by the police sometimes to categorize it differently so their numbers could look better?
If I had to posit an answer, I would say that
I would say yes.
maybe
Let's be
because
real.
the higher the murder toll, the less confidence sometimes it has against them and thing. I wouldn't say that it's an opportunity, that something that they do very often, because we always watching too. So remember we count. If we come here and had 3 bodies here,
Yeah,
you can't say 2, you can't say 1.
right,
We seeing
right.
3 people. We talk to families and have 3 people died. So they do it all the time, and honestly, the numbers don't ever be like discrepancy. Don't be so big to say it's 100 less or something. It might be about 20 something off.
Right.
Down to the, as I said, the categorization. But they would also, I want to believe, find a way that if this don't have to be a murder, we're not going and put it in the homicide column if this don't have to be.
Right, but which leads to my next question. Do you all follow up and add? So let me just say something happened, 2 people get shot, whatever the case may be. They stay in the hospital for 3 months and then end up dying.
Yeah,
do you all follow that and then add that to the murder tool, or that is
Yeah.
okay?
So you would see, we would definitely do
Yeah,
that.
hold on to that story.
Yeah, we definitely do that. We could say, so and so has succumbed to the injuries, and that pushes the murder toll now to 204, something like that. So yeah, we follow up when we could. As you know, it's limited resources too. Sometimes people don't understand the industry under strain.
Right.
Sometimes is on a weekend it's just a handful of people to do a whole newscast. Sometimes 5-6 people really pushing out a newspaper and things. So it's not everything we could do, because have so much more we'd like to do, especially in terms of crime and following up with communities and understanding the impact of crime on communities. So it's not just this fella gets shoot, he was 34 years old, he was known as
But
so
the
and
real
so.
stories.
But the impact on the community and a lot of work, I think we'd like to do there and thing, but there's so many. Trinidad and Tobago, you don't get a break, you have a look at regional papers, you have a look at the Barbados and Kitts and thing. Trinidad very different, There's always something happening. I
for
sure
sure.
while we're talking here,
Yeah, something
something
right now.
happening right now that is a big, that any other country might be one of the biggest stories for the year. And we've gotten to a place where be like, all right, all right, that's the big story for the day.
No, but as much as these murder things, right? They're on the front page, these salacious things, they sell papers, they attract people to all their websites and whatnot, right? You remember when Jack Warner, I don't know if you was in the media then, when Jack Warner was the Minister of National Security, and he wanted to kind of push the murders further down in the papers. How you feel about that? I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Or not make it the first story in the newscast.
So I was going to ask, right? I was going to ask something relating to that, as in the sense of we could make the example with the music, right? They say like the negative music does sell, but the negative music kind of brainwashing the youths and them to be on shit. You understand? Basically, I always had a belief that the news had a big part to play with that same kind of programming too now, because if you living in a place and every time you turn on your TV or open your papers, you just seeing dead bodies in front of your face, you automatically gonna be partially traumatized to some degree, you know, and that could affect a society now, you know, people living in a place where they're just thinking, 'cause right now we saying down here, bro, and we safe, you know, we safe, you know, it's quiet, everything nice, but if I go in some on the news, I go and feel like I living in Baghdad. And the news, I ain't saying things that happening, but the news has report on that so much. Because they've been reporting on we saying down here doing some positivity. They've been saying, hey, look, Akash Nalo and KG doing a podcast, shiny behind the camera, big production going on. Talks with KG, sponsored by Rude Boy. But they've been saying that. But them saying, man get shooting love until 5 bullets to the head. So that painting a picture of something that, you know now, like as Nalo was saying too, like what is your thoughts?
So definitely
on that?
definitely reporting on crime is of no benefit in the sense of it brings an audience, because now you would hear people say, I don't watch news because it's too depressing.
So reporting,
So it's definitely not a case where we say, all right, these murders, this triple murder here, going and set we nice, boy. There's a nice one.
that is nowadays look at it?
No.
I don't
because-
believe that.
Nah, because
I don't believe that.
we people too, and we understand human loss. And if you ever go on a murder scene as a reporter, it's not a desirable place to be at all.
So why do we report the
Because-
murders?
Now you
first?
have to, you
Why?
have to show,
But
show.
why?
what
Like, what is the
society-
real reason
Because
for
we
that?
have to show we have
Every
a
day?
problem. If it happening every day.
But other things happening too.
Yeah, and it have a whole hour newscast. And
But
it
that
have
is
a-
like the main.
and it have a whole newspaper.
Why is that the main topic? Why is
because
that?
because we have to show that it is a problem we cannot normalize and get accustomed to. So if I start seeing 4 murders on page 7,
Right.
then to me the image, the message to society is this is a part of life now. This is not big news anymore. This is regular news, and we can't let that happen. We can't let. It's not a matter of we put the 4 murders on to say, look how bad the place is, you know. It's a case of look what we need to fix. Look what we need to do better. Look what we need to address. So by pushing it lower down in the newscast, because trust me,
Yeah.
we just glad to not have to put murders in the front, you know. It's been nice to have a section in the newscast and no murders. It feels good, you know. It's just that we can't normalize it either. We can't let it be a part of our DNA to the point where you can't put it with all the run-of-the-mill news going and be later on, because then we accept that this is just life now. This is Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, I feel
By
that.
putting it early, we letting people know this is not what should be happening, and that is why this is the top of the news right now. Because if on the list of things we need to address, this is number 1 right now.
Yeah.
Right? Human life. We could do what we want. We focus on flooding. We could focus on different things. But you see, loss of human life had to be number 1. And I'm telling you, it have no reporter does hear 4 people get shot there. That
Let's make it
yeah,
sharp.
4 people get shot there. That nice. All right, nice big story.
Name Mark was on, boy?
Mark is a cool guy, man.
No,
Yeah.
no, he worked with
But
them,
but no, when you there, boy, it's a real heart wrenching kind of situation. Families balling. You seeing children without who going up and grow up without a father. You seeing mothers lose their children, and then you also feel like you're intruding on their grief, because you know we have a part of the job where we had to go and say, auntie, or if thing, understand what kind of boy he was, things like that. What message you have for the young fellas, you know, in the area is not a nice thing. Thankfully, I don't do too much of it. we have certain people, and I really admire our crime reporters because a certain type of belly. People think, I was say, people just look at me and think it brave to go in an air-conditioned room and ask questions. That's not hard. Navigating human grief while trying to do your job, that to me harder. For me, they are the heroes, them braver, because that does be a real kind of juggling act because you want to appear sensitive.
Of course.
But you can't go back and tell me nothing. I go on there and I had no interview. You had to get something. You know, you have a job to do at the same time. So for me, people should really be the people looking up to and saying, you know, good work and saying. What I do really to me is what is the basic 101 fundamental of the job.
Yeah. So Akash boy, I know we have some topics to jump in with. Naldo off camera was saying that yeah something. Naldo always have a bone to pick with me. Naldo was watching interviews and just say right. I comment. So as you're on the road of journalism and that kind of vibes, I do I interviewed K-Man, right? Just on the same topic what you was talking about where you were saying it's not an easy job like dealing with certain types of...
Okay, man, let's go post-cabinet.
Post-cabinet?
Post-cabinet. I'm post-cabinet. He's go.
Well, believe it or not, some of the things I want to pick up with KG, I mean, you might be able to touch on these things as well. So, you might jump into it?
Yeah.
All right. So, it had a few things in that interview that was... No, don't get me wrong, and I know we're trying to blame K-Man.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I understand that the people in those areas would have been misguided by politicians for years. Right. So, a part of the interview, and if you watch the interview, he was saying, if the government come and the government spend 100,000 so, and 100,000 so, and 100,000 so. Yeah. No. And they was kind of like, agreeing.
Yeah.
Right? No, my issue with
because
that...
I feel where you're coming from.
Right.
But
the thing is, who is going to have the conversation with these people in these areas to let them know that that's not what works? Because the money that the government has is not the government money. We have to understand, the government have no money, at the end of the day. The government have the public purse. They have the money in the treasury is ours, right? And for them to do 100,000 so, 100,000 so, 100,000 so, that means the rest of Trinidad and Tobago has to forfeit something. Some sort of subsidy, some sort of something for them to do that.
But them don't get nothing.
Nah, that is not true. Let me be real. A lot of money is spent, and Akash should tell you that too. A lot of money is spent in the inner city areas, as you would say, or I would say the ghettos, in terms of whether it be CPEP gang, whether it be blockchain contracts. They just find ways to spend money in those areas. You understand what I'm saying? You feel the same money is spent in Westmoreland and Valsayn.
Yeah.
But is it spent in the right way though?
In terms of in which area?
But I what K-Man was basically saying,
needs, because recently I had a conversation with when we was doing our election pieces in terms of going into communities, and I went into around West St. Joseph in the Mount Dore area, and the older people saying these young people in this area not doing anything with their life. Right? And I went and I talked to some of them off camera and thing, because some of them, they didn't really about the camera thing. But they were telling me that yes, it have programs.
Right.
It have a lot of programs. But the programs don't meet their situation. Within the context of their life.
Right.
So on paper, the programs look good. We have 10 things here. We have this, and that way we can go and learn trades. But we are forgetting that some of these young people in the early 20s, maybe late teens, some of them are children already. And a man can dedicate certain time to go for a stipend, which him just getting money to travel and something to eat, and you have a family to mind. And then sometimes the optics don't be inviting to people. I watch a time that they have in a employment drive in a community center. But about 50 black Prado outside the community center, white tent, red carpet. Who from the area going and feel that they are allowed to come? Somebody is going to watch that and feel like that is not for me. I don't belong there. So sometimes in the attempt to, I don't want to say politicize the initiatives, but in attempts to, make it look good for optics, you kind of disenfranchise the people you want to help. So I guess what he was trying to say is maybe money spent, but you're not getting value for money, because sometimes you might just want to tick a box.
Right.
That you're doing something for
might
this
sound
community,
good
you're
as
doing
you're
something
saying.
here, doing something
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Look how much programs
but-
we offer in here.
That licks.
But
I sure that licks now. I sure by that Lord.
So yeah, but this is why I want to call out the people from that area. I want to call out the people from that area, and not to politicize this in any way, right? But it's so funny that a lot of the people in these areas complain so much about their situation and their circumstance, but they vote the same way all the time, right? And I think that is also problematic. You understand what I'm saying? I think if you hold the MPs to account in this situation, because you're directly voting for an MP, right? In your area, you hold them to account and they know. Because I just tell people anytime, you know, if it's one thing with Lockita, because I live in Lockita and I live born here, right? And Foster and them, even though he lost, he was busy, you know, because he knew it was a marginal. He knew he had to fight. He come and try to play cocky, but he knew he had to fight, you know. He knew he had to do a lot of things, for instance, library and whatever. I don't understand what went on, who get contract, who didn't get contract, we don't know. I didn't get none, right? But I think when they know it's a marginal, or they know the people willing to vote against them, right, or the people voting for their interests, I think you get more out of the MPs, you get more out of even the government, the people who might be in power at the time, because they know, hey boy, we had to shift some money that way.
Them don't have an education, and that is reality. You know, them don't understand. Because we go back
it
to...
happens in all areas. I wouldn't say in those that we may perceive as, in terms of less academically inclined. We see that throughout Trinidad and Tobago. There's a pervasive problem. And sometimes what these politicians might do is they suffer for 4 years, and then coming on to the last year, they promise you everything. And you might be inclined to believe them. Because that is just the psyche and what the philosophy that they implement now, where you ain't gonna get anything. Sometimes they might have something for you, but they're leaving it for you last year. Because they know they want you to remember when you go in the voting booth what you do for them recently. So I would say that's even beyond a St. Paul thing, and I think it's really criminal that how certain forms of politics might look to tempt people to vote for them by holding out for the majority and then giving you something coming down to the end. So it's definitely not an education thing, because I've seen a lot of bright people, you know, so-called academically, do the same
When I
thing.
say educated, I mean school. I mean like educated in that area,
Just having knowledge on
like
that,
politics, and I don't think much people have a broad knowledge on politics.
And then you have to understand the
Just
role,
underrate that now.
race plays and how much they play into that racial
that
thing
too.
as well.
Yeah.
So people want to see somebody like them in charge, whether or not they're doing right by them. They at least want to know, so-called one are we in government. So you will take the abuse, you'll
But
take the
here this.
neglect.
But here that's not low, right? Even when he said that, right? He talk about put money here and put money there, right? He make an example and he say, look at Six Dan, right? He talk about Tyson, right? And you hear what he say. He say to people who does wake up in the morning with nothing to eat, you know? And this man does give them people something to eat, you know? Right? Now, we just underrate poverty. I think we had this conversation.
So the thing is, I understand what you're saying.
It have people who lazy. It have people who could probably do something and maneuver, but it have people who in like raw poverty now, boy. And poverty is not only money, you know, but poverty is also why you are wrong too. It a woman who in houses in these areas who going through dread abuse and thing, and they can't go no way. You understand? It are men who want drugs and they're addicted and the brain ain't functioning properly. It are people who going through trauma. It are men who afraid to even leave the neighborhood. So going to a course is not even a thought.
Right.
You know, kind of way?
No.
Just like us now. Just like how it are regular people who afraid to go on an aeroplane because afraid heights. It are men out who afraid to dead just because of where they come from. So I just showing you like it are certain reasons why those things that you say the government probably does do for them, they're not really matching up with the lifestyle. Now.
Right.
But remember, I came out talking about Six Dan, and you were saying people should be lucky to have this kind of man in this neighborhood, boy, because Six Dan them getting men food, and if they need assistance with anything. He did for them. If a problem go on in the neighborhood, you go into he and you'll get justice. He talk about everything that the government really supposed to be doing.
But nah, I disagree with
Right?
that. I honestly disagree with that.
Let me finish. Somebody I know comment and say, how the government go build studio for Cayman and them. Nah, hello. This is talks with KG, you know. You just put me in these positions to say a thing and then I go viral and they vex with me. But real is real. I see the government give Marshall $5 million for album. Remember that?
Yeah, but yeah.
No, let me be real.
No, but
that's no.
but it's two different things. It's two totally different things. Let it go.
The reality is, Marshall was the top dog them days. He was the big artist. They come and they give him $5 million. They give him that push to go up. Do the same with these youths. Like all that, you know me and you always having this conversation, and then you just tell me, but that is not nah. Cayman and Swanee and them is them representing, bro.
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no.
Why not? Why
no,
the government
listen.
don't say, yeah, what's going on? I see in this wave going on in the Beatum and in Sealots and this Trinidad and this Zesting and getting millions of views and the youths and them trending and Why not say as the Minister of Culture, Minister of Youth Development, well, it even had again, right? But let me just say, why not use what working and work it? Why try to make a man a plumber when he's showing you, I want to sing?
And they know how to use them during campaign.
Right, they know how to use them to win election, everything. But when it's time to give them the strength, now you come in and telling me, nah, the government not supposed to do that. So the government's supposed to do everything else with them, but help them?
No, hold on. So here's my thing. But you make a real good point there because this shipping is with cartel there and
all
kind of the baddest bad man dub for all the campaign, but no one want to tell cartel what not to say and he can't say and he can't go.
Cartel is a bad influence. How cartel is a bad influence?
Right? No, if you tell me before the let me get into that now, right? No, here's the thing, and I think because you had that conversation with Chromatics, the reality in it is, no matter how we feel and what you know, because you keep saying you said it in the Cayman interview and you said it in the Chromatics interview, a Cayman fan will know Cayman catalog. Right? He have a lot of positive music. The average man who watching Akash and them on TV, all they know about Cayman is they try to kill Cayman on the avenue and somebody else get shoot. They try to kill him on the highway.
Nothing wrong with that.
You can't say nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with knowing that.
No, what I'm saying.
But you don't know other parts too.
Most people wouldn't know other parts, you know. Contrary to how we might feel.
No, but the truth is the truth, you know.
Right? No, the truth is the truth, but not the truth reaches to everybody and it's not always real, you know. It's always perceived, you know, plenty times. Let it be real. Once in the media and you're putting out things, plenty times is the perception.
But how ways to know, man?
No, but they're not. But the same way
them ignoring thing.
The same way they don't know that Cartel is a positive man now and coming out here and preaching only positivity and upliftment.
But I'm a point.
Right? The same way they don't know that. It's the same way they don't know Cayman doing that.
But is that right?
You understand what I'm saying? No.
So men getting oppressed because of them lack of knowledge? Because them ignorant?
No, not.
So them could judge KG and say, KG's a criminal. And all they know is a criminal. And them supposed to stifle my career because them think I'm a criminal. That's not right.
No, listen. No, it's not.
That's not right, boy. That had to change.
Well, the first thing is, as I tell...
My perception of them too, if them is criminal. And them is prime minister, all kind of thing.
Hey, whoa. Right?
I be real.
You can't say Akash here.
But
we're trying to put him
no, I say perception. I never said there was that.
Right?
My perception, because I either see on the news, I either see when Akash gonna ask them the hard question and the fumbling to answer. That's why I see it. I seeing something wrong here, boy. But I still not judging. I still have respect for them. So why them can't do this?
So no. As I say, in my opinion, and we will say Trinidad to cover all of this, right? The Trinidad need proper PR to adjust.
Well, we need
to fix it. Because at the end of the day...
I know say you have a problem, by just saying.
Because, you know, like you're comparing the Marshall and whoever the case may be, right? Now, at the end of the day, these things happen in Jamaica too, you know. Don't feel the little ghetto youth artists and them just get fired on too, and they will push the more polished artists.
They get fired all over the world.
Yeah, right? they will push him up, and it's because at the end of the day, our government is going to do what is marketable and what they feel is sellable, right? And at the end of the day, they want to sell and push soca. They don't want to sell and push Trinidad because of their perception of Trinidad. No, it's going to take some work. And so this is my point I was making when I say, no, the government shouldn't put it there yet. In my opinion, I think the work needs to be done. This is how I always see it. And people have to see this too. You need to start fixing from inside. Because listen, you put millions in the hands of people who don't know how to handle money, they're going to waste it.
Of course.
You understand what I'm saying?
But you see, what you saying there now, you're right. I never say get them fellas 5 million. You know? I just use the 5 million as an example. I just saying, it could start small. You know it has something going on in the area, whether it be simple, she, John, Beatum. Why not? And I been with you now, Lou. I never, since I in this whole thing, I have never seen intentional support from any of our leaders besides coming for dub plate and all kind of thing when they're trying to win. I have never seen them because if you could, go, Kamala Prasad's sister literally using things like knock it and things, like K-Lion terms and things, bro. Like things that we create artistically. And they are using these things, they are using the music, the terms, everything. So that means they like it. That means they understand what it is. So that means everything you say. So that means everything you say in there, null and void.
I don't think so, no.
Understand a certain degree.
I don't think so, no.
Is something.
I think.
Why they use machine?
I think somebody told them. I think.
They understand the resonance it has.
Yeah,
but
they understand what's going on now, boy.
And they understand that is the language.
But do you think
Yeah.
Do you think Kamala Prasad's sister, just now, do you think Kamala Prasad's sister really knows, or she is following the guidance of some PR team or somebody in the background?
No,
I think a combination,
well,
because
yes,
it won't be surprised because she knows a lot. The other day she messaged and she asked, she said, how you going? I say I good prime no, she was opposition leader. I say I good opposition leader. She said, all right, once you're doing better than Manchester United, I glad enough.
Good boy.
I was like, wait now. I say wait, she know what's going on. She said, once you're doing better than Manchester United, I good. She knows. But she will be guided by obviously by she have a lot of young people around her too.
Yeah.
But you look at her support.
Right.
A lot of young people.
But real is real now, though.
Yeah.
If you're using it, you have to respect it in some sort of way. You're using it in front of your face, so respect it. What I came and saying is, come in.
No, listen. Here we're going on.
You're not coming in.
I'm not saying that at no point you could come in, right? But I think what is important, we have to understand. You know me, I'm into business, right?
Yeah.
It's value. You see, if 6 Dan and 7 Dan, me know the name on them, right? Me know, right? Whoever is 7 boss, right? And 8 boss or whoever.
Yeah.
You see, I think if they could all come together and we could see a significant amount of peace in that community between 6 and 7 for a while, I think the Trinidad could be considered. If you understand what I'm saying.
And you know,
I think
you know who I think could do that? Them.
the politicians.
I'm telling you.
Well, to be fair,
But they're not doing it. They're not even trying. Remember when Patrick Manning had the Peace Treaty?
Yeah,
he was intentional.
Yeah, but
even though it probably didn't work,
but-
but he was intentional.
No, remember people
You
say
have to do it.
you in the media at that time?
No.
Now,
Because
you,
because you
was
remember, right? When after the peace treaty is when everybody who was in the peace treaty started to drop. So it looked like they call them out to see their faces. That's what it looked like, right? But it just so happened everybody started to drop right after.
But I'm just saying, like, to me, it have a, but then they had no industry and thing within that whole bad man culture. Now the industry intertwined with it now. I believe is money is structure that go make them fellas bring peace.
So let me tell you what part.
And I'm glad they bring up that.
And let me tell you why I agree with you, right? Because you remember when the cartel and Movado war was bad.
Right.
Cartel talk about this. They got called into a meeting with the Prime Minister. And while waiting is when they had the discussion and they were like, look what music brought us. We should really stop it. We should.
No, the Prime Minister send a entourage for Cayman. Send one for Plumpy and them on the beat. Bring them. Brother, it will happen. I telling you, they could make that happen. I'm telling you.
So what is
They had to be brave.
What was the issue you had with respect to that interview?
So all right. So the building a studio for
That was an example.
Yeah,
That
right,
was an
right.
example.
But that's one of the things that because I always say if they build a studio, then they will dictate what happens and who happens with the studio. We like to pretend that politicians don't actually get involved with these small things, and we all know that is not true. We had to be real. I mean, you probably can't say it, right? But we know politicians will pick up.
Like I say, they do it, but do they really do it in the place that they're supposed to do it?
Right?
That is the thing.
So that's one of my issues. I also think that as they're talking about 6 Dan and them, and you know they might feed people. I think things need to be people like them who have the finances and the power. I think they probably they need to reach out to somebody to understand more about business and start opening small businesses, start giving these youth men in there a little opportunity to do certain things. But I also think it's important that I talk about peace because there's a youth man who was selling water and juice on Charlotte Street, you remember? And somebody ran up on him and shoot him. And K-Man was saying, the youth men and them, they want to do something.
Of course.
But as much as they want to do something, all here, not meaning K-Man and all that, but everybody who involved in this, whether it be 2 or 4 gang or whatever it may be, they need to pardon, they need to stop.
So they're saying that from at least a PR perspective, they should show the value what that investment would bring.
Right. Or I want them to start to make some of the changes on their own. Right? Probably with as I say, with the finances from the people who have the finances in them areas. And then we could try and because at the end of the day, is the country's money is going to be spent. How am I going to feel they say they go and spend 2 million in that area, right? But yet still me as a normal citizen, I'm afraid to drive in the back by Piccadilly Street, or I'm afraid to pass certain places. Because you had to understand the rest of the country is looking on too.
But it's amazing that we could look at a $2 million investment there, and that would raise eyebrow, and it have attorneys getting $2 million for a pre-action letter.
No, but I mean, I against all that too.
Now listen, remember, I think that is why men does. That's why men like him man talking like that. I don't feel he's saying that because he just wants them to spend money there. Men seeing the injustice. So men seeing, as Akash say, men raising the pay and thing. But you can't give you 100,000. So that basically what he said. Money is being stolen. But yet still, nothing here for we.
I mean, that's an incredible point because I would tell anybody.
But that's the reality.
And this is a challenge I'll probably open to you as a journalist to go into the freedom of information and check and see how much money the government pays out in lawsuits on a yearly basis. Listen to me.
You've heard that the incoming, the Attorney General in now, John Jeremy, I called him a few days after he got into office, and I said, I just want to hear about your first few days in office. And the man said, all the money to pay outside counsel for the year, done. And then you would hear that when the PNM came into power too after the partnership, they say the same thing. Look at millions of dollars spent on legal battles and on these attorneys and things. So when I hear people say, how you invest $2 million in a community that we're trying to turn around, I would say, why not?
No, listen, I will...
I rather the money go there than any legal litigation.
Find ways to pay it too.
Benefit nobody in society.
It had thing to do.
My thing is I want to see some degree of peace. I want to see some degree
maybe that could bring peace.
Nah, I don't want...
You never know.
Because the thing is, if we spend the 2 million, we spend the millions, and there's no peace, I would be upset. I've been very honest with you.
Where's our investment?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a gamble.
And people go still benefit off it.
We spent tens of millions and didn't get value for it already in the past. Why not something
you can't save
something
everybody. But I know if they're like, you see, I very passionate about the music and the arts. Other people may be passionate about other things, so they could chip in their ideas, same way now. But my idea for a better community, because I've been in these communities, give them more things to do. You understand? And plenty of them, like 60% of them get to use that growing up right now. They want to be like K-Man and them. They want to be like
but the thing is, we have heard from people like Gary Griffith. When he was the Minister of National Security and when he was the Commissioner of Police, about the amount of money that goes into the hands of people in these particular areas that are being used to fund illicit stuff, whether it be bring drugs, bring guns, or whatever the case may be.
Well,
So the thing is,
function it properly.
so and that is
Build
so.
the studio and
You understand what my concern is? So do we continue giving them money? Because we have heard all the rumors of people who might be community leaders or whatever the case may be and getting box drain contract. But at the end of the day, is this amount of money spent on box drain and paying people, but this amount of money, this amount of people bringing drugs and guns over. And element, I will say this up front, I really don't have a problem with a man selling weed to make money. I being honest with you, dog, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I hate the hustle.
Right? No, I just like how you go and buy something on Temu or on Alibaba and you bring it and you sell it, right? If a man doing that, okay, find a way to legalize, whatever. Like, we still fight. I don't think we should fight over that, right? A man selling drugs, in my opinion, people might be vexed. I don't care about that. Have I seen the killing? Have I seen the violence? Have I seen with gang war? Certain people can't go certain places. That is where my issue lie now, boy.
Right.
And listen, these things are known in big cities and in other countries, you know. But you know what they tell them? Also, like a sell their drugs, you know. But don't kill nobody. When they start killing people, like if I look back at the history with Giuliani and New York, when New York was out of control with the killing, and Giuliani knew that he had to take down some gang bosses, he had to take down some police, and he knew that he had to leave some people to function. But in all their functioning, to let get out of hand. You understand what I'm saying? But something needs to be done. At the end of the day, bro, I not comfortable living in fear in a way. You understand what I'm saying? I must feel like
I've been right here now, Lord, that is what needs to be done. We need to pay attention to the youths. In 1995, there was going in all them ghettos and them and building a small goal court and thing for them and basketball court and thing. You know why? Because the youths and them wanted to be sportsmen, and that was the thing. Everybody wanted to be Michael Jordan. And that take real youths out the ghetto and put them on national team and who went on scholarship. And we see that wave now. We see that wave. All of us here have friends that were successful in the sporting arena now, boy. Now is a different time. The youths and them want to be musicians. Youth and them want to be content creators. Youth and them want to be streamers. So we have to give them the tools for that. The youths and the ghetto don't have the tools. So who gonna give them? Six Dan? Okay, Six Dan could try. You will get our thing, you will get that. But the government need to do more. They have to do more now, low, because it is evident that if they do more, we can't save everybody. You know what I mean? Saying that when they do that, Trinidad just going on, nobody going there again. But you could help youths, dog. We have to help.
We need more community leaders.
Boy, we just need more support now, boy. And as we were saying earlier when you're talking about they may perceive the thing to be one way. We need to break out of that too, because it even came and said in the interview too. He say they go just look at our youth and say them youth and them bad. Let the police them kill them without trying to find the source. Why is this man angry? Nobody even asking that question. Why you vex? I must be vexed because I wake up this morning and my father hit me a cuff the face just so because he's a drug addict, boy. And every day he does wake up. Now do they real things, you know.
I not say no, you know. But
So
the thing
we
is,
can't forget them parts. It's easy to just say it are lazy youths. It are people who don't care about nothing. Okay. But it have people that want better. Look, just yesterday I was in St. Paul, Chinese was there. And a man just in my ears, dog, just telling me, KG, any work you have, I just do painting, I just do masonry, I just do thing. He say, he was blind in one eye, so he getting disability check, $2,500 a month, but he can't work. Okay, anytime he work, the government taking back the check. How a man going to survive with $2,500 a month? He have to work, but he can't work, he getting disability. You understand? So all these things are things that men going through, and we can't ignore these things.
I agree,
It's
but
easy to just say,
But I agree, but I think
have
a
the-
lot of work needs to go into it. I
Yeah.
honestly don't think. One of the reasons I don't like the government getting involved in things is because they don't do anything properly, right? But because we go and see it with the laptop thing too, they're going to do shipping us with this laptop thing too. And I don't care which party it is.
So I think from the perspective of what they would call the so-called the press communities, what would you like to see from them in terms of an image change, or is it
Not necessarily an image change. I think some work needs to be done on the individuals in the communities.
Remember, everybody in the community not doing crime. You know?
No, I agree.
Understand.
So, as I say, and even the ones who not doing crime need to stand up and tell the ones who doing crime, hey, watch, or they pat it on a little bit. I think some things.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah, I know that's
Oh,
not.
God.
Yeah, I know that's not how it works. But at the end of the day, because something has to happen. You understand what I'm saying? Because once you put money in there, and they have people with ill intentions, they're going to screw over the money.
You can't run from that.
But what I think he's
Carry on from
proposing
that.
is trying something different now. Because if we know the definition of madness, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing the same thing over and over
expecting
and nothing changing. So I think what he's saying is try
You
something
have
different.
to try something new.
And I think investing in a studio
Anything.
is honestly is not that big from
It's not,
from
it's
when we
not.
look at the resources the state
no.
has.
It will do so
is
much.
not to say something that will break the bank per se. It will be less than a community center, if you know what I mean. It will
Correct.
be less than a library.
And it will be used more than the community center that always just build.
And lock up.
And I never see inside that in my life.
And then lock the gate.
But then what happens when...
That will be real.
But what happens when the man who decide he managing the studio decide he going and gangster the thing?
That is happening in the community center too.
No.
The nice community center and Auntie Mavis and Auntie Sita and them, they gangster in it too, you
No,
know.
but here we're going to go and broke hard. Here we're going to go and broke hard. At the end of the day, we have to be real. The community leader is going to govern the scene. Right? And men going to come and sing the little song for men. Men outside, men going to tell you if you're shit or if you're good, brother. If you're good, you will get a blind. And you never know. You could end up being a big artist overnight. Because we see it with the Trinidad, right? You know, we see men like Prezi and them do it. Prezi build studio on the Beaton and real youths bust out of that studio now. Big. So we see it happen now, boy. So we just want to see that happen more.
But then, so is it that...
This connotation with violent music and violence.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there are plenty people
Yeah,
listening
man.
to violent music on their way to work and they don't come out the car feeling like they want to shoot somebody.
Well, I mean...
And I think sometimes Trinidad music gets unfairly targeted because we have soca music with hypersexualization.
Yes, yes.
We have Indian this chutney music with alcohol abuse.
Correct.
You understand? But
Correct. It's a fight, Akash.
No.
It's a fight. It's a fight.
The thing is, I agree with what I understand what Akash saying, but I think here is the difference, and I've been saying this for years. The problem is not the music alone.
The content?
No, not that. The problem is...
The things are committed.
And not that the things are committed. Let me tell you. At the end of the day, we might have been brought up a particular way and understand and see things differently, morally, or whatever the case may be. Because don't get me wrong, it must have people who listen to soca and running about promiscuous. You understand what I'm saying? So the thing is, it comes down to it's how you're brought up. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because that's what makes the difference. At the end of the day,
The
values that you have.
that is a good point.
So when that music hits the ears of somebody who does not have proper parenting, you understand, or no parenting at all sometimes, it is easier to influence them than it might be to influence me and you and some other people. And that's the reality in it. Right? Now, what do you do in that situation? So I agree, you can't ban the music without, or even if you want to do that, then I guess you have to start addressing parenting in terms of whether social development or whoever the case may be, checking on children in schools and wherever the case may be, see the situation, checking to see they growing up in a healthy environment. You understand what I'm saying? So I think those things need to fix as well. But the problem we having right now in this country is that it doesn't matter which party is in power, they are not going down to the micro level. They just deal with everything on a macro. We do this here, social development, get this, and this one get that, and guess what? But at the end of the day, they're not dealing with what's going on in homes.
Correct.
It have children.
And that's how it's supposed to be. If you're the MP, you're supposed to be on the ground.
And I'm gonna lie, you always have some valuable content here in terms of some perspectives that hopefully it reaches their ear. Because I listen in here and I learn in as well. And so because it's not really a world, I'm going to pretend to be from the world. I'm not from the world.
Yeah.
But
I talking about 6 Dan and Prezi.
No, I know the music. I know the music. I know the individuals. I know the music and Indian people love the bad music. If you say I'm young Indian girl going to work out thing and if you listen to what they're listening to. No, listen. No, but I do interact. I mean, a fair bit in those communities when you're going to do those interviews and thing, and honestly they're looking to do good things and productive things with their life. It's just that sometimes societies make them feel like it's not for them. Like they don't have the same amount of options as somebody growing up in a middle class community. That the options are not there for them, and therefore their life is on a certain rigid path, and that is the only option they have. And I fully agree with what KG said earlier, if you want to use the music and the art form and the industry on your
respect it.
campaign trail, and you want to use it for sound bites, and you want to use it for the youth vote, and you want to use it to resonate with a certain section of voters that you feel you're not getting, then invest in it and respect it.
Yeah, respect it.
Right?
Some
'Cause,
sort of respect.
Yeah, definitely. If not, we'll keep it out your mouth.
Yeah.
If you don't like it,
use
you
don't
want
use
nothing
it.
to
Don't do with that.
don't capitalize and don't profit off of it.
So you go
agree,
use
I
it and
agree.
then bash it. Like licks. What part of the world that cool? You use something and then
Because
spin around and
honestly,
bash it.
if you look at how things were shaping up leading up to 2025, when the now Prime Minister started with the load up the matic and knock it
Right,
and
right.
empty it
Yeah.
and then reload, she say.
Yeah.
That is when you saw her standing starter.
Right.
Yeah, is when people,
Correct.
because local government
why
came
the
right
vote.
after that, and the UNC started to make some inroads in local government, and I realized, and I seen how on TikTok and people put in the no, it's not Rebel, it's the one who died. Sorry, what's his
K-Lion.
name? K-Lion, right?
Yeah.
And they started playing the K-Lion song with it and saying,
Oh,
No,
these are
that
the
be not
party.
get
And
no,
then-
get that them.
and then honestly think about it. Yellow is the code. Will you feel?
Yeah.
Will you feel they try it?
Oh
You understand?
God, oh
Yellow is the
God.
code. All of that kind of
That what
comes
has
from
get
the
me
same
vex,
place.
Akash.
So-
Even now, even since I'm talking about the Trinidad Killer thing, it's along that same line. I'm fed up just see people use your thing and then turn around and disrespect
And scorn it
dog.
when it just
What
fit
is
the
that?
benefit-
It's either he's
when
my
the
friend or
benefit
he's not
them.
my friend. Let
Yeah.
me know. And that's my problem, because I've been seeing it from inception now. They've been using Trinidad and the zest and for everything. Once they're trying to make something poppin', that's what they're going to first. But we blatantly asking for their assistance. And assistance could be anything, you know.
And they could sometimes be
Assistance can
very
be
selective
anything.
in their morality too.
Yeah.
On what is right and what not right and
Understand?
what is criminal
And also
not
too,
criminal.
Nalo, it's a damn shame too that, because you know this too, it's not everybody in Trinidad on criminal thing. You know, so Peter paying for Paul at the same time too now. But it have men in the Trinidad that doing great things. And just ignore even them. You know, we could big up men like Zerima. You know, we could big up Boy. You know, like, come on, like, it has so much Alano. We could call men that, trying to do it a different way. But it's like,
And you
is
two
that
out of
way?
the three people.
You know?
And you two out of the three. I'm happy with myself.
Yeah.
Out of the three.
So now outside that G, how you just watch Trinidad?
I take it for what it is. I take it as a
Trill music.
reflection of their reality and the community, and it's just honestly I look at it as poetry and an expression of what they're going through, an expression of what they see as value, as their goals, and what they see as their challenges. And I ain't gonna lie, it's song real good too. I ain't gonna lie. I mean,
Like
song.
for instance, right? For example, when I was interviewing K-Man too, he was real nervous, right? Very, very, very nervous. If you watch it close, you could see that he very uneasy. And well, China, and I must tell him anyway, but like he really look real nervous and thing. But I appreciate the fact that he was nervous because I understand that the life that these youths live in is a different life now. And I want people to see the emotion.
It's a real human emotion from
Yeah, it's
him.
a real thing. So people
Yeah.
go just watch, as I say, people go just watch men shooting behind these men and they might just think it's just a thing now, but it's a generational curse also. And it's something very...
And it shows that he values his life as well.
Yeah, but it's a deep thing now. So when I see like he was nervous, I say, all right, at least people will see that he bearing a lot of pain and,
That's a robot now. But
yeah, it's not just a thing now. Men are playing Call of Duty basically now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people think it is, people think it's a Call of Duty thing. Even my brother was, we was having a conversation the other day and he was telling me, he was like, say you're an artist and you grow up in a neighborhood or whatever, and you poor, basically, you are no money, do nothing. And this particular man investing in you, not the government, nobody else, just this man. And you're going to be loyal to this man? Like, be real. You're from the ghetto, You're from middle class, you're from upper class, You're from the hood, Standpipe, cricks and water in the morning, that way living your whole life, And then you reach 19, 20, and then this man come and say, youth, you are real talent, You have to spend thousands behind you, buy chain for your clothes, shoes. You have to get girls. You have to make money. You go in and hold on to this man. If this man says 6 is 6, This man says 7 is 7.
If that man says shoot, you shoot him.
Yeah.
And-
Well, but then this is my point.
And the thing is, it does only come from them areas because middle class and upper class never had to go through that.
No,
you know,
so I
we
understand.
parents teach us do without. But how you do without when you have nothing?
Not really
You
underline,
understand?
so
it easier for somebody to make the wrong decision. And we have to understand that from the bottom of we have
Yeah,
to.
but this is what I'm saying. The same community leaders.
Yeah.
Is it that they are perpetuating this lifestyle that is putting them in this disadvantageous situation? If you understand what I'm saying, because the same way. You might be loyal to a man who's sponsoring you, or whatever the case may be, bringing you up. And if he says shoot, you shoot. He could also say don't shoot. You
Of
understand
course,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so let me
But sometimes shoot had to shoot.
Right.
Because men shooting.
right?
You know, so it's a whole thing now, like we can't just categorize one part
No,
of it and
no.
forget, well, it's all this
Yeah,
here
but
too.
alright, let
My
me-
brother dead.
No, I don't.
My father
I
dead.
don't want to seem like an attacking K-man, right?
Yeah, no,
Because
no,
I have
no.
full respect for the youth.
If K-Man see this,
he's
K-Man
very
gonna understand
talented, right?
everything we talking about.
But but I will
Yeah.
call out something here. When the situation happened with the fella in Totola or whatever the case may be, and men
Right.
started to throw talk online,
Right.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
somebody, and I think there's a part of the problem for them in those
Right,
areas.
right.
There are people with guide them and tell them, hey, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't
Right.
respond to that.
I
You
agree.
understand what I'm
I
saying?
agree.
Don't respond to
Probably
that.
had that to them, but they knew-
I agree.
Right?
But we have to remember too now, look, the emotion that coming with that constant trauma. It's nearly impossible to ignore it. When you killed 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of my friends, and then you're going on the media and you're throwing talk for me, it's nearly impossible for me as a man in the spotlight too to just rock back. Now I'm not saying it right, you know, but it's like it's impossible for me to not understand it.
Yeah.
Like somebody kill my father and laugh at me, ha 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 ha. When a man kill his father, I go in and say ha ha ha, ha.
But you have to understand.
And that what them going through.
No,
now, boy.
listen, and I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but you also have to understand what comes with that.
Yeah.
is the
yeah.
judgment,
Yeah, of
the
definitely.
negative look.
Now I agree to 100%. I
understand what
just
I'm
see
saying?
it and I just say, wait, I wish them could stop that bickering thing. But I know that only if you're in that position, you would know if you could really just say, because people, look how Gary talk to me. Men tell me, it does me I cuss Gary. And like something simple as a man just talking to me off, boy. And men telling me, look at Sika. Men saying, boy, that man was talking so in my gallery, boy, cuff him in the face, boy. So imagine if a man shoot your little brother, boy. What you gonna do, rock back and kumbaya?
Well,
And a man telling you, no, boy, no, boy, don't study that, boy.
Alright, so let me give you a little story, right?
You
I
ain't
can't remember
going
if
to
I get the story at time on the pod. Now, as a youth man, I'll give a little.
How much
a
time you
little-
had the Chinese?
Oh, I'm telling you.
Yeah, so let me give a little more depth, right? My father died when I was 8. And I tell people that's when the ticklish time, most ticklish times for your father to die. Reason being, when you're much younger, you don't notice. When you're much older, you understand. And my mother used to sing in my head, we use the man of the house. At 8 years old, 9 years old, the only thing you could have attached masculinity to was strength and fighting. So I used to go and fight plenty. I used to real fight in school till they put me out of the school I was going and whatever, right? So I had a violent past. And the other day, a fella disrespect me, as you will say, violate. And I call the dogs them. I say, hey, I'm man violate. Nah, man, I is lying with it. Right? I was probably in Form 4, Form 5 at the time. I call them fellas, I'm man violate. Them fellas can come and put holes in the man, right? The main driver was not wrong, or the car wasn't working. So they called my cousin to drive them. Right? And my cousin called me. Them fellas now call me and tell me. And my cousin said, what's you stupid out? So everybody you fall out with, you go call gunmen for them? You understand what I'm saying? And I will always remember that conversation because that same fella I wanted to call gunmen for. Right? Me and he got up to today. You understand what I'm saying? We do so much things together and lime and party and drink together. But the thing is, somebody had to be there
Of course.
to tell them, hey, to tell you, nah boy.
You know, when shutters have a part when he say, Biggs, it reached too far. That was going on, it reached too far.
And
Generational. So,
And
you know,
the thing is, we could look at the things happening. But us, I know a man who popular out here, his little brother, killed my little cousin. You understand what I'm saying? For a gold chain. Right? No, I could take that. But at the end, I have more to live for. You understand what I'm saying? I had children. So that's the thing that's stopping me. You don't feel I go feel away. You understand? Of course I would feel away. Right? Now the thing is, somebody, somehow, whether it be the same community leaders, they need to be having this conversation. Because at some point they had, because all the money could triple and quadruple, you know.
Of course.
If all the try and get a handle on the situation, you know. Because look at K-Man. K-Man can't go out and perform in certain places, banning them and whatever. Also, you know the kind of money them artists getting money out there. Talk 10,000 US, I gig you on 35 minutes, 10,000 US. Plus they pay for your flight, they pay for your hotel, you get podium, you get, you know what I'm saying? So the same community leaders, whether it be Prezi, whether it be Six Dan, them fellas had to say, hey, listen, we understand that is what it was, but at some point you have to call a truce, because I have artists under my label who could make it out here, you are artists under your label who can make it out here. And what we doing? We crippling each other, and we messing with the money. And we had to stop messing with the money.
Here I go say it now, man. Here I go say it. I fully agree with you. Right? And I don't think it will ever stop, if I have to be real. But why I does, still put my 2 cents on what I think we should do moving forward is because I believe that we have to save the ones coming. It's not about the ones who done in it. Them done in it. Them done in it, bro. You understand? Them done do what I had to do. And them had to deal with the karma and everything that come into them. You see them little youths and them 10-year-olds, them 12-year-olds, them 14-year-olds. What going to go on with them? So in the next 5 years, next 8 years, a man who's 12 years old going to be 20 years old. Who he going to be? That's my question.
But then,
who he going to be?
Then we'll have to take him out of the area.
No, what Trinidad we billing to say that the generation coming has some way good. Why I can't grow up? Why you can't grow up in this neighborhood right now and grow up in a neighborhood with a studio on the corner and he do have to go through what I had to go through. The wrong roads I had to go through. If I had a studio here when I was 14 years old, but I never do nothing out of time in my life. I've been real with you now because I wanted to be an artist and nobody now used to take me serious. You understand? The time men who wanted to be footballers and couldn't get through because of politics. And what school they went. We talk about this. Trinidad is a place of that. There's only help one. And I know you don't agree with it, bro. But it's the reality. We see it. We see it. You understand? And they do it so much and for so long that the youths and them brainwashed to feel like they don't even belong. What make them feel like them don't belong by now? Nobody.
The thing is,
something had to happen first.
I agree. And
but that had to happen.
Then listen, then how do we, as I say, in the presence of Akash, because Akash is a person who say, he out there willing to help people, and I appreciate that, right? But we need to put it in their mind. Now, I believe one of the things that has changed our society is when people have hope. I think when they do have hope is when they start to behave crazy, right? So we have to somehow give them hope, carry hope to them, right? I think that needs to happen.
Yes.
I don't know how we're going to do it.
And
as I say, but the thing is, how we, when I say we, I talk about we, right? Because at the end of the day, average man, I don't know if average man could go up in them areas.
No, but you're giving them hope now. You're using your platform and you're advocating for change. You're doing what you could do.
Drip by drip. You will fill the bucket.
Somebody will hear this. The idea will reach somebody else, and a decision maker will make a decision based on it. So you're doing what you could do by advocating for the cause, by ventilating both sides, because I thought both of you all had really proper perspectives on what's happening. And I find myself agreeing with both of you all as well.
Thank you, Jana. Love for you.
So, so that is what you do in that position. That's how you help. And that is why I see what I do as well, because I tell stories for a living. I always tell people say, where's for a living? I read and write, right? So the first 3 years of school is very important for me. But we tell stories and we try to bring change from it. The same way that you all ventilate these issues and people see the passion you're coming from, that could lead to something as well.
Well, forgive me, I'm looking for my opener to crack my rude boy, because put the cameraman, because we have to take our rude boy break. You understand? We have to. Come on, I know Akash ain't drinking no rude boy. Now the way your rude boy, we're gonna have a tell. The rude boy done?
Yeah, my rude boy done. My rude boy drinking nice.
Yeah. Come on. If you are hot one, you can get hot one. Like you're pregnant. But yeah, we really talk to you now.
So is it that,
Oh,
is
God,
it that
Mike.
we could get Akash on board,
Yeah.
right? Because just, you know, who he is in society, or whatever the case may be, going and getting to talk to these youth, or whatever the case may be, could make a big difference. Reaching out to help. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I think that is important. We need to get back hope in these communities and to the youth.
But like how you say that,
What's that?
like that's a brilliant idea. You know, like getting a man like Akash involved with, because bro, you are real influence. You know, and I know you're in the game real long. I know that, but I think like you have a lot of great things ahead of you, see me too. You know, and I think that all that, like this whole dialogue is happening for a reason. You came here for a reason, everything. You know, Akash bring a gift from all kind of thing. Akash a real one, boy. Akash ain't come here just so.
Now you mustn't show up empty
Yeah,
handed.
so
Must put
Akash
your hands
come with
together.
something nice, you know. But yeah, and I would love to see you. Because we were talking about the topic about when we were talking about the crime on the front page and why we don't really promote more of that now, you know. Like I could use my platform right now to literally promote anything I choose to. Again, I fed up go back to the Cayman interview, but again, I could probably put light on the shootings and this and that, and I chose to shine a light on the positive part of Cayman life now.
Right.
You know, and I think like journalists like yourself and everybody else, even the newspapers, I know, I kind of agree with you when you say like we can't forget about the murders, but it would be nice to see more reports on what is going on positive in our country now.
Yeah, we do that as well, you know. But you know, it's so funny because I started a series last year when I find I was doing too much political reporting and I felt like I was losing my touch with the ground.
Right.
And I did a little series where once a week we would tend to go and help families a little down on their luck, impoverished people, try and put some food in people's belly and thing. And which is to me the foundation of journalism in terms of is to improve the quality of your life. That's why I tell people why this do is that my job every day is to try and improve the quality of your life.
Right.
And we would reach out. So we used to say, okay, we're not just going and do these stories on poverty right through and things like that. We want to highlight people doing nice things in the community, people doing positive things to influence children or even young people doing positive things for positive influence.
Right.
And you know, we would reach out. The councillors in the area, we ain't going to know everybody from everywhere, so I might show the councillor or the MP or something. And I would say, here now, give me a list of some people doing some amazing things in the community now. I want to come and check.
Right.
And you know, we can get...
When
it comes to the poverty, we'll get about 10 names. And when it comes to positive, we can't get nothing, you know.
Right.
So you think the MPs and them in the work in the neighborhood?
I would say that no, but I would think they would think that maybe immediate needs like food and shelter and thing is probably would have saved them fellas coming once in this community. It is the one story we really.
Right.
But I agree. I wish we really had the time and the resources to do more in terms of upliftment.
Right.
But that is why I believe that journalism is beyond the traditional CNC3 TV6 now. You have platforms like this as well where people could tune into and get that and get that level of support too. So when I always tell, you know, I talking to young people about journalism now, I say, don't close your eyes, but don't picture me per se. Like traditional media, whatnot, like old school journalism.
Right.
Think about the podcasts. Think about these people who using YouTube to do these investigative pieces on crypto scams, things like that.
Yeah.
Think about new journalism, right? You don't always don't think the standard mic and the camera person and you stand up there. Think that's fine as well. But journalism has become so multifaceted and has evolved so much. But I count this as journalism as well. To me, this is
People as
real
vexed when I say that in
journalism.
Aldo. I don't want,
who
first of all, I
gatekeeping?
don't want to be a
No,
journalist.
but who gatekeeping
Right?
journalism?
I
I'm
am a
licensed to be no
podcaster.
journalist.
I find, you know, I'm a podcaster.
Who tell you that?
No, I tell any people that.
Oh, I thought somebody
I'm
said
not a journalist. Because I realize like when you put the journalist term, you have to.
No, but I see you.
carry yourself as
No,
certain
but
way.
I see you as that. You can carry yourself.
Well, right. Well, if I
you
can't
want
see
to
I'm a
carry
journalist,
yourself.
or they can't tell me, me's not a journalist.
You're doing interviews, you're asking questions.
I'm doing
You
journalism.
get into the bottom of certain
Correct.
things, and you're using your platform to uplift and educate. Well, you're a journalist.
That is it. Well, I hear it, right? Right, it's on my resume. You dig?
Nobody can keep the industry like
Yeah,
that.
you know, let's go.
But I wanna put this there though, because I think there's still, this is still niche. This is still somewhat niche, right? As much as you might see some high numbers, I still think there's a certain portion of society who this is not going to reach. So that's why I think it's still important to have traditional media,
Right.
because as
Of
much
course,
as
of course,
you
of
know,
course, of
traditional
course.
media still plays a
Yeah,
certain
because
But
I
that
does.
could be niche too.
No, because here
well,
this.
no, it is a
Yeah.
particular
Everything
niche.
have a slot. Everything have a slot.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I do manner with Robert Duma on CNC. And bro God, some of, like people who see me and be like, I know you from manhood. They don't know me from Talks with KG.
Right,
they know me
right,
from
right.
CNC3. So that have a slot. I appreciate that slot still now, but you know.
So I think everybody needs to work together
Yeah, correct.
and fill all the spots and reach people in different ways.
Yeah.
So I think I know. Listen, we didn't have this conversation before. I know it seemed like we gang up on you and trying to get you to.
I never
to
gang
push
up
it-
on the man, brother.
to push
You
me
gang
pause.
up on him.
You understand?
I never.
Akash is my dog.
I never felt that way.
Akash is my dog.
feel that way
Because you
at all.
bring them kind of controversial questions.
Right. Yeah. But I think we all have to come together.
But,
Yeah.
but I really appreciate it. I appreciate them giving me the opportunity to
for sure, man.
kind of ventilate what happened
Yeah.
this month because
This month was a hard month
it
for
was
you,
a,
bro.
it was rough at the beginning,
Yeah.
and you know I have to remind myself that you know the job ain't gonna be easy all the time,
Yeah.
and everybody going.
Nah, you're doing a great job, bro.
appreciate everything
A
you
really
do,
great,
but-
great job, bro.
Yeah, but it's really just to stay focused and ask the questions, help everybody, and if people wanna get vexed with it,
In my opinion, I didn't like the question. I just let you know.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
He
Which
come too
The-
hard.
Yeah, the one
salary
with,
one?
Yeah, the one with the salary and the children's life fund.
that wasn't the case. That
Which
was
question
not
is
the
that?
case.
That was Kamala, right?
Yeah.
That was, I asked, your campaign heavy on, you criticized Dr. Rowley and company so much over accepting the money from the Salary Review Commission. You came in as the People's Party. You came in as a party of the people, for the people, by the people, right? You went on record several times saying we did not want that increase. Dr. Rowley went so far as to say, in public they're telling you that, but in private they are rinsing out my ears, asking when the money is coming up. So now that you're in power, I never asked her if she would put the money in the children's life fund. That was never the question.
Alright.
The question is, prior to that question being asked, the Prime Minister spoke at length that if they meet at Treasury with no set of money, they go and borrow from the Heritage and Stabilization. They go and borrow from this to pay certain bills. So I say, right, now that you're in power and you have all this extra money you did not want, right? What you're going to do with it? And she said, legally, the hands tied,
Right.
they can't reverse the decision. I say, okay. The same way you did not need a law to donate to the Children's Life Fund back in 2010, cannot the same principle apply where you create a little fund and all the extra money and raise that you didn't want, that you said was out of touch, that you said people suffering, all that extra money, you can't put that, make a decision as a party. If you so claimed you did not want the money, to put that money somewhere. But what happened was the question got twisted, reworded, and I realized that the Prime Minister was trauma dumping on a question that I never asked.
No,
So I'm sitting there and she's talking about, and the audacity to ask why I didn't ask. Listen,
Then
I
before.
held that government to account before, the same way that this one going to be held to account. So for me, it was eye-opening because I'm sitting there and I realized she's not answering the question.
The question you asked.
And you could never get vexed because if you're campaigning on a certain thing and you and the people vote for you on that level, I going to ask you about it. So I did not feel like asking them about the salary thing because they well blaze the PNM fate. The real campaign hard against them.
yeah.
Look how they want to accept salary. They're giving you 4%. They're accepting 47 thing. So I asking you now that you here, all the extra money and the fact that we are saying we have none and people suffering, what we going to do? Because the other day she said that they're going to cut back on ad revenue to,
Right.
to media houses because how we could be paying so much money and have people who can't eat for the day. The same way asking you that, how you could accept all of
this
that
money and people can
and people cannot eat for the day.
Definitely.
And I can ask you about that because last week the Prime Minister said when it comes to taxpayers' dollars, there's no privacy. So I can ask you about your salary.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
You
I
understand?
agree. I know.
It's just that they clip it online in a way
Yeah, they clip
where
you.
it sound
They
like
clickbait you.
I asked about the children's life fund. I didn't ask about the children's life
God.
fund.
Right.
I was just saying the same way you didn't need a law to put money in children's life fund. Don't say your hands legally tied now that you can't. Well, sorry, I had to accept all this money, boy. I had luck, boy. It was not me, you know. It's the last government. Well, do something with
No,
you.
so listen, I hate when you ask any politician or anything and they try to tell you about the last person. Boy, I'm asking you.
They're traumatized.
You say you wanted our vote to be here.
Right.
Don't tell me about the last person because we voted in, right? We put you here. Don't tell me nothing about the last person. What are you going to do going forward?
Definitely.
So, and I would say, I got caught by the clickbait clip. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I was caught by the clickbait clip and just getting that part of it now. Long time I used to sit down because I used to work in master control, so you used to have to watch all
Gotta
them,
watch it,
the
yeah.
whole thing now, boy. Right? To be fair, I honestly don't watch the whole thing and a lot of these things anymore. And well, they tend to do more of this post cabinet press briefing, but like in that format.
Yeah, and later in the day too.
Yeah.
But nah,
Bro, I don't know what the ass what they're talking about.
stand for
But I meant talking. I can't say yeah later any day too. I like what? What I'm talking
No, they
about?
just have them like after about 6 o'clock and thing now.
Bro,
just
I don't
like
know.
after
Bro,
2.
but all they call- it's-
Yeah,
see
the-
politics, something but that sound like Spanish to me.
That's
yeah?
how it feels like 10 minutes
Yeah.
during the came on.
Yeah.
Came on to.
It's about politics and then I don't know.
Yeah, but I stand by that question to this day. People
yeah.
could vex, but
No, but I think what's
Had
important
I
is
asked- had
context.
I asked Dr. Rowley that question, I would have seen all kind of positive memes and
Definitely,
positive Akash
definitely.
thing, Akash Prime Minister
Yeah,
thing. All of a sudden, there's a new government in
You
charge.
can't be on that,
because let me tell you
brother.
what
Yellow is the
what
code.
bothered me early is where after the election and I walk in, people blowing up on we win by Akash, we win, and I was thinking we
win.
I said, nah. I know what I mean by we, right?
Yeah, we
Right.
win.
We win, and I said,
From,
right, I need to from day one. I need to put the flag down. I need to put that down.
I like how you do that, bro. That
It's
was
not
very
going on.
commendable.
Yeah,
That's very-
it-
As a journalist too, that was like.
I said, I'll take my licks. I'll
Yeah,
take
yeah,
my
yeah,
licks.
yeah.
I didn't expect Auntie and them to bust some cuss behind me, the way they bust some cuss behind me. But, yeah. That's
Which is $1 million question I'm asking. You know.
We have one more
And-
question.
No good, boy. How about 3, you know? But anyhow, so
how
let me
much
tell
time
this
you have? What time
one.
you
Let me
have
tell this
here?
one quick, right?
How long is it?
Being out there.
Oh God,
How
yeah,
much?
boy, nah, one more.
Right. So being out there, right? And because you know on social media we just see the two sides, right? I'm not going to say the race side, but the political sides warring each other and being very mean, disrespectful, distasteful. In your experience out there in real life, would you say one side is worse than the other, or you don't really you understand? Because as you say, Tanti come and tell you that, you know.
Great question.
Yeah.
I never.
Hold
So
it.
I now get an experience in terms of for a very long time one party was in power. For 10 or 14 years in journalism, one party was in power. I wouldn't people might think it could be confrontational out there. But people used to say you're afraid to go PNM rallies, and that's not the case. When I go PNM rallies or go PNM thing, it's real love,
yeah.
It's real hug up, it's our picture, Akash, is even people telling you, hey, keep up what you're doing, because people want better quality of life. And it's never been a case where I felt myself in any danger, or I felt in a way that here's not a nice place to be, or here feeling a bad energy here and thing. It's always been nice with the political parties. What happening here with the United National Congress is by virtue of being of East Indian descent, the assumption by some of them was that I on their side. And what I got was a disappointment. Like if your son disappoint you, so from the older people, it's like if your child disappoint you, like I look for your day, like that, you get disappointment. But yeah, it's never been a case where, and to be honest, people, this PNM, UNC, I think when you watch nomination day and everybody hug up and say everybody
Everybody good.
it's a vibe and everybody
Yeah,
good
yeah.
anyway. Sometimes it could get a little out, it could get a little rowdy. That is happening in sport.
Mm.
You understand? That's happening all the time when people are passionate about certain things. But it's never a case where you go out there and you say, "Wait, boy, there's this party here going on, jam me for doing my work," and people understand generally. On Facebook, though, they have a real mouth.
Yeah, social
Facebook,
media.
listen, I've been confronting people these days who think it's okay. I went to buy food a few weeks ago, and a man thought it was okay to shout a certain something at me. And I walk up, he and the family, and he with the family too, as well, that's how the children and the wife. I say, excuse, you say something just repeat it to me now. I didn't hear it properly. And he boiled down, saying it had a certain pundit, a religious man, went and say things, but I don't understand this at all. And I call him, I get his number, and I say, I hear something to tell me. And he said, no,
Akash ain't taking that.
I am. I make a mistake in how I worded the post. It was not. It was to tell you I'm proud of you. I say okay, all right, no problem. Thanks, bro. I appreciate that, man.
So let me ask you, did you fill out your Form 1 and Form 16 yet?
For man,
Form 16.
what's that?
Alright.
What's that?
They knock it on them. They knock it on them.
You license fire.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's I don't know. Nah. I good for now. I'll probably get a pepper spray for my wife.
Yeah.
But I good for now. Because I think about logistics.
That's
If anything happen, I know about the firearm yet. I wait to see how society will get with easy access. Because I see how people is going for bad drive. So I waiting
So you ain't want to be able to fire back?
I good for now. I really know on that gun scene right though. I good. I want to believe I could still use my words and talk myself up to something. It take plenty. It take plenty to
From
get
the time I see men start to get thing, I what thing. Means nobody get, but from time when I get thing, I what thing one time better.
You don't want to be the one without it.
Nah.
Yeah.
You want to be the one.
Don't dread already.
Better to have it and don't need it.
Yeah.
You understand? Than to need it and don't have it.
Yeah. So, fellas, it was a wonderful one. I know we could go on for about 3 hours, but we could do a part 2. Alright, we could do a part 2.
Yeah, so it's nice.
Alright, so Akash boy, we like to wrap up with positive words, for the youths and them especially. So leave them with something now.
Yeah, I would say definitely.
That's all. Let my cameraman shift the camera there,
Yeah, especially for young people, I definitely say there are a lot of options out there. You have to stay true to yourself, find the positive people around you, and keep a little core group up as positive people around you to help you do the right thing. Because, as I said before, sometimes the right thing will be the hard thing to do. Sometimes the easy choices mightn't be the best choice and thing, but you have to have a moral code, and you have to believe in what you're doing, and just believe in doing the right thing, and following the right advice. Just put good people around you, and you will see how different life will be for you in terms of what you could accomplish. And don't be afraid to ask for help, especially the men out there, the boys, the young boys and thing out there. I know sometimes with masculinity, we could feel like, we had to handle this on we own. It's in hard to ask for help and reach out. And you reach out to me, self. You hit my message on social media. If you're looking for advice on how to get in the industry, if you're looking for advice in general, and I'll be more than willing to help. It's time for men to really start to uplift men.
Definitely.
And we start to move away from that whole thing where we could always handle ourselves because we can't by ourselves.
Definitely.
We need a team around we and we need support. Yeah?
Yeah. So Akash, my brother, big up
Richard.
yourself all the
Yeah,
time.
man.
Yeah, man. It was a wonderful one, Naldo.
Yeah,
You don't know the
please,
thing
yeah,
go all
man.
the time. It's always love. And that is it. Boom.